If you're an average player, you want to be left alone, all right, because you want to be able to slide by. If you're a good player, you want to be coached. If you're a great player, you want the coach to tell you the truth every day. Did I hustle on that play? Did I make the right read? Did I play the guy with the right leverage? You want to know every play, because you know why? They want to be perfect. Everybody here makes a choice to do one of those three things.
Welcome to the GOAT Consulting Podcast, a podcast dedicated to people striving to be a GOAT, the greatest of all time, serving it up in a way that you can get it in all stages of life.
Hey, I'm Colby Jubenville, and welcome to another episode of the GOAT Consulting Podcast right here in VC Productions in studio in Nashville, Tennessee. Always at the table is my good friend Tyler Burnett. Tyler is the founder and CEO of the GOAT family of brands. He's got on his nostalgic throwback GOAT brand for today. And to the left, he came in a Sprinter, by the way. Did you know that? In the Sprinter. He can email, eat, text, exercise while somebody else drives him. From Charleston to Waffle House to the Masters.
Never exercise. It's not a bad
wherever
idea.
you may go. And to the left, we call him the LinkedIn Whisperer, the calming force to our show, Captain Kintsugi.
Thank you.
My good friend John Byers. We have a great guest with us today. It is a continuation.
Our good friend Lindsay Leahy.
A continuation. I will say to the audience that I've been on Dayquil. And it's been a little tough. I haven't really gotten the support that I needed from.
Are we going to have an episode about excuses? I feel like that maybe they make
You need to hire Lindsay.
I was going to say, we could turn this into a coaching session.
Well, I feel like it is, and I need to be restored. And Lindsay is the CEO and founder of the Restoration Project right there in beautiful Cedar Rapids, Iowa. She's all the way from Nebraska. She's got an incredible story. Before we do that, we like to always set the stage and say that we are the GCP, the GOAT Consulting Podcast. Yes. We serve it up in a way that you can get it, and we do that because of our relationship with Dev Digital. And if you need anything done, platforms, websites, apps, social media, Google reviews, whatever it is that you need, all the way from Zambia to the Bahamas to one of their global offices around the world, call our friends at Dev Digital.
Yep.
They support what we do. We serve it up in a way that you can get it, and we're about stages of life and career. In our 20s, they teach us to get in the game. 30s, getting to move up in the game. 40s, try to stay in the game. We won't ask you how old you are. And 50s, what the research is we finally say, what is it that you really want? And part of what you've done with our audience in the first part of your episode is talk about what is it that you really wanted. And certainly you went through your stages of life and career. And GOATs are easy to see in sports. It's people that elevate the play around them. They're recognized for their greatness. But in business, it's people that compete on unique perspective, unique education, and unique experience. And what they do gives them energy, giving other people energy, creating new levels of challenge and new levels of opportunity. And Lindsay, you've done that in your career when you decided to take that moment and say, I'm going to walk away from corporate and I'm going to start my own thing and I'm going to invest in the world in the way that I want to. And so we appreciate you being here today. John, certainly appreciate you teeing up that connection, and we will continue to move forward.
Yeah, and if I would encourage you to look up Grit, Gratitude, and Grace. Check out Lindsay's blog. She is a lot of things and wonderful things in life. Wife, daughter, leads the Restoration Project, which we're going to unpack that a little bit more here today. So a couple of things that you said in our first episode, which, by the way, pause right now, wherever you're listening, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Google, Apple, Spotify. Tell your friends, tell your lovers, go back, listen to the first episode with Lindsay. It is worth the time to learn more about her story. But you said a few things that I just want to bring back. First of all, you said "you betcha" a few times, and you probably would have guessed that is not a term that we use often in the South. And I'm so glad to have you bring it to Nashville and out to the world. So please feel free
You're welcome. You betcha. You betcha.
Y'all are welcome.
You also said, you gave us your definition of a GOAT. You'll have to go back and listen for that, but it was really beautiful. And you help people line up their actions and their intentions. You said some iteration of that. That's what I heard. That's what I wrote down. I want to hear, as we talk, I want to learn more about the Restoration Project. Hopefully you'll share a story or two with us that helps us really learn more about what you do. I love how you just get super deep real quick, and hopefully we'll do that in this episode too. Tell us what it means to you. Like, define restoration.
Good question. So it is kind of taking a step back in your life or in your work or in your organization and doing an audit of what's working, what isn't, what you really want it to be. So painting an ideal vision, whether that's for your life or your team or your organization, and then figuring out what are the gaps? What do I need to let go of? What do I need to add to make this what I really want it to be? And at a deeper level than just strategy, but how do we create purpose and meaning in the process of doing that?
Well, and it seems like one thing that you said in the first episode is, and we didn't camp on this a lot, so I want to hear your thoughts, but you said that we tend to make choices from a place of wounding. And I connected that dot to two other things that you shared in the first episode, growing up with an abusive father, and then later on in life, having an abusive relationship. Can you talk about that? Because to me, where you are today is very much restorative than where you've been. So I think about the dash in between those two choices and the dash that led you to here today and how much that fuels your business.
Yeah. Well, we all have that personal narrative, right? The experiences. What's difficult about the word wound is even if you had a perfect childhood, the experience,
for Tyler.
Some people like to argue with me about that, but your experience created narratives and beliefs that most of us are walking around not even aware of. So whether it was out of big T or little t trauma, or somebody made fun of you, you're carrying that subconsciously, and then you are acting out of that. So for me, growing up with a dad, the narrative I was playing as a little girl was, I'm not safe. I can't trust anyone. I'm unlovable. And why is he doing this to me? So I'm carrying that now forward into relationships and even into my leadership style. I didn't trust anyone. I didn't feel safe. So I was one of those leaders at the beginning that was trying to outperform everybody, trying to outshow everybody to prove, because I didn't feel safe or worthy, trying to prove my worthiness and my place in the team. And that really hurt a lot of people. And in my personal life, my husband, another pivotal point for me, when 2 years into dating, my current husband he broke up with me and said, "You're never going to trust me. And so this can't go anywhere." And I had to.
Where everything you want, where everything you need will always stay a million miles away. You got a secret garden.
That's right. Yeah. I wasn't letting him in, and I wasn't being real and vulnerable about how I was feeling. And so that was work I had to do through therapy and my own healing. And I see us doing that in small ways in leadership, right? Leadership is a relationship. You have a relationship with the people that you work with. And if you don't feel safe and open and like you can trust people, you're going to act very differently than if you have that peace and safety internally. You're going to be more open to ideas. You're not going to get defensive. You're going to make decisions out of love and care for others versus a scarcity mindset or putting the hammer down on people.
So I don't want to camp on this long, but maybe one more question here as it marked me when you talked about making choices from a place of wounding. When you moved into this relationship, the abusive relationship later on after you've moved out away from your family, how is it that your wound of your childhood in some ways caused you to settle for this person that would treat you in some ways very similar? Can you talk about that? And maybe how does that resonate in how we make decisions about business and life and other relationships?
Yes. Two things that were pivotal for me. One, because of that interaction that I had with my dad, I didn't feel like I was worthy. I felt broken. And
of somebody that would treat you much better. Like, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't feel like I deserved somebody who would treat me better in a weird way. But the biggest aha for me was my definition and experience with love through that relationship with my dad was violent and intense. So love to me was, you're jealous all the time, even in my dating relationships, like prove to me that I'm worth it and you care about me by fighting with me or being jealous. So when I started dating my now husband, who is the kindest, gentlest man, he's like, lady, you're crazy. Like, this should be comfortable and easy. And what are you trying to do? Picking fights with me all the time. Wow. So I had to rewire that for on my own.
We'll discuss it later, how you can give me that information.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit down now.
How do you see in the work that you do in business, how do you see that, what you just described, people's wounds from their childhood or in life, I should say, come out in their roles in leadership?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you coach them and help them through that?
Yeah, often it's aggressive behaviors or power over people, like Brene likes to talk about it. So you are the boss, you're interrupting people all the time, you're demanding things of people, you are through your behavior telling them suck it up and don't want to explore what is under that, or approaching them with curiosity and compassion. That's what I see most often. And in themselves, they're trying to push through. Like, I can just sense when somebody is resistant. So the CFO, if I can tell this story, CFO that I worked with, when we came in, he flat out told me at the beginning, I hate the name of your company. We don't need restoration. I don't need restoration.
Well, wow.
And I had to be.
Who signed the deal with you? Was it the CEO?
CEO.
Okay, gotcha. So then you go
and
to
it's
the
a
CEO.
large.
So you're diving in. You're sitting down the first time with the CFO, and he's like, "We don't need you, and I hate your name." He must not have trusted the CEO very much.
Yeah.
Well, hence why I was there. I mean, literally sitting there with his arms crossed, like, you're not going to get anything out of me. So I just kept working on him and kept showing up, asking him questions, getting what I could out of him. And eventually, when we started talking strategy and I started asking him questions about his budget and the things he owned, he got really defensive, freaked out on me, lots of expletives for many minutes. And when he was, and in the inherent nature of me, you guys, is I will kill you right now. Like, I will fight you.
Yeah.
But we're over Zoom, so that helped. But I just sat in that looking at him like, you are a wounded little boy. That's what I saw in this 60-some-year-old man was, whoa, you are acting this way because you're threatened. And I don't know where that comes from or what that is, but I let him say his piece. And at the end, I just said, Bill, you will never speak to me that way again. And when you're ready, I'd like to talk about what just happened. And then he called me back a couple of days later, and he just point blank asked me, like, why do you keep showing up? And that was a trigger for me that this is an open invitation now, and now we can get somewhere. And so I just asked him, have you ever felt safe to be who you really are and to be honest? And he said no. And that's what people are carrying around. He's a very successful man on all accounts on the outside. But right now, I don't think a lot of people know this, the suicide rate for men age 38 to 52 is the highest of any category. Like,
wow,
you're carrying the weight of your whole family and society and culture, and you have to keep it all together in this pressure to do it all on your own, and the stigma around asking for help. It's not good.
As you were talking, the best lessons, I share this all the time, and the best lessons in life for me are ones that transcend over marriage, parenting, work, relationships, life, business, all over, right? Like, I can easily transfer those. As you were talking, and as I think about this concept of making choices from a place of wounding, which I certainly do in every area of my life, it took me to parenting. And it took me to the ways that I probably carry the wounds of growing up, and the ways that I don't want to blame because I own my own actions, right? And I learned it from somewhere and I own them today. But I imagine like having those conversations with my boys and my daughter someday, but she's pretty perfect, so she wouldn't, we wouldn't have these, where they talk to me, my boys have talked to me, probably not as intensely as your CFO friend, but where I would say, you can't talk to me like that. And when you're ready to what I want to say here, and it's coming out very messy, is I want to respond to them and others in my life the way that you did, right? And to be able to someday hear them ask the question of me, why did you keep showing up? Like, that's what I want with my kids.
That's the thing I suck the most at. I'm so competitive that when I get something to me, I just like what you were saying, I will kill you. And that's the biggest thing that I struggle. Like, me being so competitive is what's so good about me, and that I will outwork you, and that I will show up when you're not willing to show up, and I will study harder, and I will grind, and I will do those things. But one of the weaknesses that I have is that I'm so competitive. And, it's a double-edged sword. And sometimes me and my wife or kids will get into it, and they do something that triggers my competitive side, and it makes me fight.
I get it.
I don't know if fight or flight is that right terminology, but that is one thing that I'm really working on right now, to just not be so competitive. Like, I still want to be competitive when it's time to be competitive, but I want to be able to step away from it when it's just a conversation. With my wife, I just fire back. I just want to win, So that's one thing I'm really working on in my relationship.
Give that time. You'll lose that desire at some point.
That's about space too. Giving yourself space to think about how you're showing up in each of those different. Because I'm that way too. I still get that way. My girlfriends and I played a euchre game, and I suck at euchre, and I got so mad that I went upstairs and started crying because I was losing. So it's like, lady, you're crazy.
I want to come back just quickly to something that you said a moment ago, and that you said when you're ready to have a conversation. There's something really key that I think our audience, that I took away, and I want to encourage our audience to pay attention to there, is that you set it up to, let's have space, and I want to talk about this again. And I think that's really key, and I try to do it with my kids, right? Like, I'm going to set a boundary here because you can't talk to me like that, and we're going to finish this conversation. So I think what you did there was really important, and I don't want...
That's funny that you said that.
I don't want to miss it, and I don't want to...
On the way back from the Masters this past week, we got into an argument, and she tends to shut down, and I want to talk about it now.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know what, I'm not going to say anything until she says something. We drove for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I was boiling.
Dying
inside.
It's
funny that when we did give it space, like you just mentioned, John, and we sat down to eat, and then it was brought up, it's funny how much better we handled it or how I handled it, I should say.
Yeah.
I don't think that what she did was right either, being silent and just looking out the window. But I think that if we could have had that conversation to say, let's just reconvene on this when we're ready to reconvene on this, I think a lot of times it would handle a lot better.
Is part of the work that you do within the Restoration Project helping leaders bring out their feelings in an appropriate way in the workplace? I feel like that's what you haven't said, but you have said over and over again. Maybe talk a little about that, because there's a stigma around that with men, I think, with people in general, certainly in the workplace. We want to put this mask on, but I feel like part of the work you do is helping people appropriately bring out and share their feelings in the environment that they're in.
Yes. So there's two things there to unpack. One, most people don't have good emotional language. We can't even name what we're feeling. I'm angry. That's the one I feel the most. But under anger is hurt.
There's
pain.
Always something under anger.
Yes. So teaching people how to access what are you really feeling and give them language is one part of it. And then two, teaching them that there's a difference between processing and reacting out of emotion. So in that moment with Bill, if I was in my reaction mode and where I normally was 2 years ago, I
yeah.
would have just flown right off and engaged in that conversation. But this, now I know how to process that feeling, breathe into it, bring myself back to the present moment, see him and where he's at and what he's doing, and know that engaging in that at this time is going to end badly, so I can control my emotions. Now, what happened when we got off the phone? I went into the other room and punched my pillow until I was sweating. Wow. To get that out of my body, because I was angry too. But that's what we're trying to teach leaders, the emotional language and then how to process it.
Is the goal to move people from that emotional response to a response based on a set of values?
Yes, very much so. And how do you want to be perceived?
Gotcha.
You know,
so
when you're in that moment.
Yeah, please go
about that. Well, just giving yourself that space to consider that. I don't want to come off assertive, or that how am I in that moment? I was thinking to myself, okay, you're okay. You're all good. Bill is reacting. How do you want Bill to feel at the end of this interaction? Wow. And then that's how I handled it from there.
I recently had a friend tell me that he was making dinner after working all day and not eating lunch because he was working straight through, making dinner for the family, and put bacon in the oven. The bacon burnt and pulled it out, and the whole family was making fun of him for burning the bacon. And it kept on and on and on. And so he finally threw the bacon down, went out of the room. This was not me. This did not happen yesterday, by the way. And after my friend left the room with all the kids and the wife there, and when they threw the bacon down, it broke in a million pieces because it was burnt, right? Yeah. And my friend thought, this was not the appropriate way to express my emotion that I want his kids to handle, like how to respond appropriately.
Yeah.
Anger is okay, right? Mm-hmm. But how it comes out in us is important to pay attention to.
100%.
And I think in the workplace too, like, anger's okay. How we bring it out and how we express what's underneath it is critical in relationships.
It's healthy conflict.
Yeah.
Getting people to a place to be able to have healthy conflict.
Yes.
Versus
and
conflict.
You have to be willing to bear the consequences, right? Because I remember getting coached, you need to approach it softer, you're too direct. And then I wouldn't even bring it up, right? I wouldn't have the hard conversation that needed to be had because I was so scared of how I was going to deliver it and how the other person was going to take it. Yeah. So finally I decided for myself, I'm going to say it the way that feels good to me. I'm going to think about it, but I'm going to deliver it. How they react is up to them. And then I am willing to deal with the consequences of that and work back through it with them. So if I do hurt their feelings, then I'm willing to deal with the consequences of that and work through it.
So one of the things you said, and I guess, God, I think this whole episode is like the things we think and do not say. Like, I think my friend would not want me to share that bacon story on this episode. And he's probably never going to talk to me again. Yeah. But one of the things that you've said is my intentions are not in line with my actions or others' perception of me. And I wrote down that I wanted to ask you, one of my favorite quotes is, based on your results, you have exactly what you intend. And when you said what you did, it immediately took me to that, because I think of that in my life often. How I behave in a certain moment, or my actions, or how others perceive me, sometimes it's not my true heart. Sometimes it's not what I want. Certainly, it's in a lot of cases, what my friend didn't want the family to think of him about the bacon kind of thing, right? Based on your results, you have exactly what you intend. Does that align with what you shared?
Yes. And I think there's freedom. When you said that, the first thing that I thought, John, was whether you're prepared to have, these incidents that happen, it's like that gives you freedom to deal with it. Like, you can prepare to have this hard conversation exactly the way you want it to go. And the way you handle it on the back end, no matter how anyone reacts, is what you're going to get. So your intention, this is the hardest part, is your intention. I'm not explaining this well, but go back to my example of over preparing. I can say it the exact right way in my mind, and Tyler will take it wrong. And then I have to remember what my intention for this interaction was, and then keep pursuing Tyler until we get to that intended outcome.
Well, there's something about waiting and waiting and waiting too, right? Instead of like,
yes.
I don't do that well.
Process it, yes, but like the longer I've got an employee right now that I want to address and discuss, and I've been tiptoeing around. I want this to come off right. I want to gather information to almost do like a 360 and have the whole team's input kinda, and I've been tiptoeing around a lot, but the more I wait, the more I get angry almost, instead of me just saying, hey, this is the problems that I'm dealing with right now, internally, externally, whatever. How do we get to this point? Because when you came on here, you told me you wanted to do this, and I want you to be there. But I either got to get you there or I got to get you gone. One of the two. You either got to be in the boat or out of the boat. And I don't care if you want to swim. If you want to swim, go swim. But if you want to be on the team, you want to be in this boat, then this is what I need you to do, X, Y, and Z. And I'm not hearing good things about those. There's something about waiting that I don't like.
So let's do this. So if you're coaching Tyler and he has an employee that he knows is not performing at the level, he's known it for a long time, he is struggling with the decision of what to do with the employee, what do you coach him in that moment to do?
Yeah, so a couple things I would ask him. Is the person clear on what their goals are? You know, do they have clear line of sight and understanding of what they're supposed to be doing? And in that, what'd you say?
He said to the penny.
To the penny.
Okay.
So me and Colby do some work together, and we believe people want three things, and it's almost four now, but clear expectations, resources to achieve them, and they want to feel appreciated. So that's the three things that I constantly focus on with the employees all the time. So yes, very clear expectations.
He has clear expectations.
And way too many resources.
Way too many resources.
So then I would, as long as you're confident of that, then I would ask you to deliver. Here's what I'm hearing and seeing. Here's what I need to be different. Very directly, very black and white. And then again, you can deal with the consequences. He's going to have excuses or responses. And that's where I see a lot of leaders fail in that part. Like they might have the guts to say it, but then we let the fluffy answers and the excuses.
Yeah, they don't follow up. Yeah.
But I don't miss like where she started though, right? Like maybe it's asking that question to ensure or validate that he does have them very clearly, right? Whether you think he does or not.
I want to make sure that you have a clear expectation of what's expected. From your side, what do you believe the clear expectation from me is?
What do you think the expectations are?
Leave it open-ended?
Don't overcomplicate it, right? So when I've done this with people that I've led, I come in and say, this is not working. And then I state what I see, and then I give them a chance to talk.
Yeah. I like what you said. Here's what I'm hearing and seeing. And here's what's going to have to happen in terms of your behavior in order to be different so that we can move forward.
Yes.
It's things like this. You know, he came in at 12 o'clock the other day and said that his family is real sick and he's been cleaning toilets for hours. Have you ever cleaned a toilet that took you a couple hours? I haven't.
Nope.
It's stuff like that.
I don't do it anymore in my house.
You know, stuff like that, right?
Talk to me later.
And then a couple weeks later, I got some family issues. I'm not going to make it in today. But doesn't have enough respect for me to at least let me know what's going on with family. What does that mean? Does that mean kids? Does that mean wife? Does that mean dad? Does that mean somebody's in the hospital? Does that mean you're
Did you ask him?
Not yet, but I want to sit down with him. I was out of town.
Yeah. Well, and that's always bring it back to the work to be done, right?
Yes.
I have somebody on my team that is going through a hard time, and we just had this conversation in her last one-on-one, and it was like, it doesn't have to be you, but the work has to get done. So you need to be communicating with me about what is you can't be committing to things and then showing up and not having followed through, because these are goals that we have to hit. And we have other people on the team that can do it, but it's up to you to take responsibility to tell me that.
All right, Lindsay, I think based on this conversation, this might be the most excited about the 5 songs that I've had on any guest.
Gosh.
I cannot wait to hear what's going to happen here. But one of the ways
Tiny
we honor
dancer.
our guests before we land the plane here, pull your phone out, playlist. You better not have altered this in any way. Top 5 songs.
I'm embarrassed. So I don't have
That's
songs.
perfect.
I have Pandora stations because that's what I listen to.
Okay.
This is
We won't
this is
shame you
embarrassing.
for living in the world of
90s,
2000 with
yeah.
Pandora.
I know you guys. Okay, don't judge me. Torn Wells Radio, which is a Christian.
Torn Wells? Okay.
Yep. Americana Radio.
Americana. Does that got like Spanglish stuff going on?
It's like
Show tunes.
You can't say that
Show
anymore.
tunes.
311, Goo Goo Dolls,
Ooh,
that kind of
311
stuff.
Oh,
Goo Goo.
gotcha.
Oh,
Okay.
Americana.
All right,
Excuse
all
me.
right.
Excuse me.
Meditation Radio,
Wow.
Beats for Studying, and Blue Christmas. No lie.
What is it?
Blue
Blue
Christmas.
Christmas.
She's
Okay.
not working out to any of these radio stations.
Okay, here's the deal. We're going to have to throw something in here. I need 2 songs like you can't live without.
Eye of the Tiger is my favorite song of
Oh,
all
wow.
time.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we're getting somewhere.
There we
Eye
are.
of the Tiger.
Good job,
And-
John. Way to pull it out.
John went through that stage.
She knew.
Well,
She knew she didn't hesitate. She knew exactly what it was, and which reminds me of this years ago, the Starbucks commercial where the guy, like the actual band would walk behind him throughout his day with Starbucks, and they would sing it. That's probably, you've imagined that a time or two.
when John and I first met, one of the things that he said to me is, "I'm really struggling with trading my passion for glory, and I need help with that." And that's kind of how we got connected. So.
Song number 2.
Song number 2. Gosh, this is hard. What is another song I can't live without? This sounds so dumb. This is what first came up. You guys are going to make so much
Yes,
fun of
this
me.
is perfect.
Because this is a song I sing to myself. This Little Light of Mine.
Okay.
Oh yeah, let it shine. Let it shine.
I sing that to my little 2-year-old.
That's so
every
dorky, but that's the song that came to me because I do sing that to myself.
night. Wow.
2 songs
Or
you can't live without.
Let It Go, Frozen might be another
Oh,
one.
that's
Let
a
It
good
Go.
one. Yeah,
That's a good one.
I have 4 little girls, so I'm very familiar with
that
that.
song goes around your home.
And my
often.
parents were divorced when I was 1, so I feel you there.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was 11. I made
11?
it 10 more miserable years.
And I went every other day until I was 17. So
Whoa,
I went,
every other day?
I went mom Monday, Wednesday, Friday, dad Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and they split Sundays.
They really developed his ADD.
It did. It developed a lot of things in my life.
Lots more to unpack here, but
Yep.
We got to land the Southwest plane.
That's right. Hey, Lindsay, thank you so much for joining and being a part of us today.
where can somebody check out the Restoration Project, by
Yeah.
the way?
Yeah, our website's the-restorationproject.com. We're on Facebook. On Instagram, it's at the Restoration Project CR.
Cool. That's awesome.
There
Thank
it
you.
is. So make sure that you do check her out. John, if you want to stay after and talk about that, your friend
I do.
and the bacon,
Yeah, I'll let him know what you guys think.
we'll be here.
Restoration Project CA, you said?
We'll be here. We'll be here
CR.
all afternoon.
CR.
Like
Lindsay,
Cedar
thank you
Rapids.
so much. Lindsay Leahy from the Restoration Project. For Tyler and John, I'm Colby Jubenville, and this is the Go Consulting Podcast.
Boom.